As we start every show out, big sales, Super Bowl week. Must be disappointing for a lot of teams who thought they'd be in this ball game on Sunday. Philadelphia, no exception. Buffalo has to be in that conversation. Baltimore. Who do you think is more disappointed not being in that game on Sunday? Baltimore, Philly, or Buffalo? Or Dallas? I don't really think the Dallas Cowboy fans deep down inside thought they were going to that game. That's just a hunch. Because, Dallas Cowboy fans, they're kind of like Eagle fans. Something always hits. Something always happens. Okay? And I'm going like, hey, who's really the most disappointed? Eagles, Baltimore, Buffalo. Tone says Baltimore definitely feeling it most. Man, if anything, I thought for sure they were going too. I think we started waning that Eagles are going to make it to the Super Bowl probably after what? Seattle? We started doing this, right? I don't know. Right? After Seattle, we started doing this. I don't know. Okay? Oh, I did have a nice time with Bill Colarulo today. I thought Bill and I hit on some stuff that was important. By the way, I'm going to hit on it here in a second. And believe it or not, I'm going to give your boy, Chippetto Howie Roseman, some amazing love here. And when you see what teams have to do this offseason to rebuild, are the Eagles in that bad a spot? We're going to get to that here in a second. No, but Bill and I went back and forth like two Italians, two guys at the barbershop, sitting there talking about sports, never coming into an agreement. That's kind of what paisans do. You ever been to an Italian, or as my good friend Jerome Brown used to say, the barbershop down in Overtown? You get some heat. What do you mean, Rocky Marciano? Joe Louis is the greatest. What do you mean, Rocky Marciano? Yeah, that kind of, conversation. So it's always good. I love those conversations. I used to have a barbershop down in South Florida down there that we used to go to all the time. Absolutely, man. One of the best places in Overtown to get your hair cut. And we get in there, man. We start talking Canes and FSU and Gator football, and it was always great conversation. So we had a good convo. And, just to go back a little bit on Jason Kelsey's conversation that he had, let me show you why it's impossible to get rid of Jason Kelsey, and you should beg him to come back this year. So let me get this right. You had struggles with the blitz. You're getting a new offensive approach. You're getting a brand new offensive coordinator. Don't you want the most experienced center in the National Football League to make that transition to a new coordinator and to new blocking assignments and new terminology? Wouldn't you want the most experienced center in pro football back? Or would you really want to break in an offensive coordinator and a new center at the same time worrying about picking up blitz pickups and blitz packages? See, one thing he did, though, he came from the money angle, which is never a wrong angle to come from. Because when you talk NFL, you have to start at the money. You can't start at the player. Okay, so I want to show you something here. Here's some of the NFL cap projections for teams as they get ready to rebuild their teams. And it looks like now that number is going to be a little bit higher than projected. $242.5 million is going to be the salary cap. Who would have ever thought that the salary cap is going to be approaching like $500 million soon? You're here at $250 million almost when it comes to the salary cap. That's incredibly great for the league, for the players. Bigger contracts. I love the fact that today's players are making more money. That's wonderful. Everyone should stand on the shoulders of everyone who built this league, and I think that's a great thing. And I look down at the top 10 teams. Here's teams that are going to get better. Now, again, brand new ownership with Josh Harris. Josh Harris has the most salary cap space, $83.5 million. He's going to be able to go out into the open market and do pretty much anything he wants to do. He's going to look at certain players that are out there, high-end players like Josh Allen with the Jags, and he's going to be able to offer them big money. He can offer T. Higgins, put him on the other side of Terry McLaurin. He can offer, do you bring back Kirk Cousins? I'm not sure. But that's not a horrible thought to give you a chance to win. They have a lot of autonomy. And inside that building, will they make the right choices, and will they spend the money, and will they spend the 83.5 when it comes to rebuilding the football team? So of all the teams in the NFC East, Washington, at least financially, is sitting in the best space. They're in the best space of any team in the NFC East. Again, got to make the right choices. Just because you have the most money usually means you suck. And you spent poor money after poor money. So I'm not saying they're doing things right. All I'm saying is this new regime has a chance to start off on a good note. Okay? The second team, doesn't it show you here all the teams with new? Look at this. The top three teams with the number one cap space. And this is why Bill Belichick didn't get a job. Is Washington, Tennessee, and New England. Do you think that's a coincidence? And they were all young coaches who got those jobs. Tennessee's at 73.9, and New England's at 69.8. What does that tell you? They weren't going to allow a coach to make complete decisions with that kind of money that's out there on the table, because you know why? Those experienced coaches would have went into the free agent market and spent a lot of that money on bringing players into their organization. You see right there? There's the control factor. Washington, new coach. Tennessee, new coach. New England, new coach. Shit, Houston's fourth. They're in a great place. But Nick Caserio runs the draft. Think about that. 1 year removed from being hired, DeMeco Ryans. And the other three have brand new young head coaches who don't have any control over the roster whatsoever. The organization does. It's control from the top. That's why these big name guys like Vrabel and Belichick and Carroll didn't get jobs. So this is not just a Philadelphia Eagle deal that Howie runs the room. This has now become infected all over the league that front offices think they can win Super Bowls from their desk. Case in point. Check it out here. You either have a brand new coach or a first-year coach in the top five. Shane Steichen, Indianapolis is fifth, 66-3. Shit, Chris Ballard's going to run the draft, and he's going to keep an eye on Jim Irsay's money. I think Indianapolis is in a good place. I think Tennessee might be. We'll see who they get at quarterback, but definitely Houston and Indianapolis are in a great place. They had a winning record, and they got a lot of cap space, 66-3, 65-6. This is really good. You're looking at teams that are going to be viable and moving forward. This is how you look at who's going to be good this coming 24 season, who's got the cap space and who wins with the cap space. This usually means good drafting and good coaching. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Is this too above your head? Because some of this is a little bit kind of in the weeds a little bit here. This is going to tell you and give you an idea on who's going to be good this coming season if they make the right moves. I'm not calling you guys stupid, but some of this stuff, I get lost in it sometimes. Okay? I think the Houston Texans, of any team in the top 10, in my opinion, I think they got the brightest future of any team in the league right now. Look at Detroit. Now, Detroit, that number is going to change because they got to make a decision on Jared Goff. How much are you going to pay him? I mean, how much are you going to give Jared Goff? Are you going to give him a $40 million contract over 3 years per? Probably. Arizona's at 44-8. What are they going to do? By the way, we're going to talk about Arizona here, how it impacts the Eagles here in a second. We're going to get to the topics. Then you got the Rams at 43-3. First time I've seen the Rams in this list. And I'll tell you what, Sean McVay and all those guys that work in that front office, I mean, they got really good people. Les Snead, those guys are good folks on moving money around and signing people. I think the Rams are trending up. Kevin Demoff, Les Snead, those are good people that ended up winning a Super Bowl a few years ago. I want to make a point to you on something about your quarterback. By the way, your quarterback and his cap hits are exceptional. And really, Jalen's money is not an impact, I don't think, when it comes to building your team. It's just the amount of money he's paying. And I think that is what Howie is more concerned with, is that you're paying a guy like Jalen Hurts that kind of money, $50 million starting in March as an annual salary, or collectively as a salary. That's a big number. But I want to show you something here. I just mentioned teams that have great cap space. Tell me what all these teams have in common. The Cleveland Browns are $20 million in the negative or in the red in cap space. $20 million in the red. The LA Chargers are $44 million in the red. The Buffalo Bills are $51 million in the red. The Dallas Cowboys are 14-6 in the red. And the Baltimore Ravens are $827,000 in the red. What do all these teams have in common? What do all those teams have in common? Cleveland, the Chargers, Buffalo, the Cowboys, and Baltimore. What do they all have in common? And they're all in the red in their salary cap. They have no money to spend. That means players are getting cut. That means high-end guys are going to have to be moved. That's right. The quarterback's money affected them to a point where you have to lose quality players. That's why, I'll tell you what the Eagles did that, to me, these other teams don't do. And I got to ask you this on Jalen's contract. Do you think they really did a solid to Hurts by giving him that contract? Or did they give that contract because they were looking more at the ability to have the latitude to move the cap around, giving him the money up front? Now, look, you give $50 million to anybody. I saw that, Hollywood. We're going to talk about that a little later in the program. Do you think they did that? Because it's a team-friendly deal. I think, what is it now? He's got 4 years and they can opt out of it or something like that? Or is it 3 years that they can opt out of that contract and they can get out of it? So they decided to give him the money up front. Was that strategically done for them? It was. And I think the payoff for the Clutch people in Nicole was that they gave him the no trade so that he can control his own destiny. You have to have trade-offs in something like that because these other teams aren't buying into their quarterback. I mean, when you're $44 million in a hole and in the red, and you just gave Justin Herbert that money, and Justin Herbert's money has affected your cap almost to $50 million on a $240 million cap. Players have to be cut. Are you going to bring Bosa back? Who's not coming back? Mike Williams? Jesus criminy. You just gave a quarterback all that money. Now you got to start taking pieces away because you didn't really buy into giving him a lot of money up front, or the money you did up front, which you didn't structure the cap hits. You got to give it to the Eagles here because they went like this. Hey, you could either pay for the cap hits at the end or at the beginning. What do you want to do? And you don't have to pay for it at all if you give the kid a lot of money. I really looked at it that this was strategically done by them in a way that there was no doubt about it, that the Philadelphia Eagles did a great job at looking at it both ways. Let's give them the money. Hey, man, let's give them the money. Let's give a lot more money and maybe some more money up front where it's not going to assassinate us like the rest of these clubs are. I thought the Chargers were going to go forward. No way. You got to take some great players off your football team. Remember, bums don't make money in the NFL. The great players do. You're going to lose Joey Bosa. You're going to lose certain guys on that team. Cleveland, you're $20 million in the hole. Who are you cutting? Amari Cooper again? Who are you going to cut? Some of your secondary guys? There's a couple Pro Bowlers there. Who are you cutting? You've got it. Dude, you need $18 million just for your draft. Who are you cutting? Dude, when it comes to money, here, I guess where I'm going with this. When it comes to money, Howie Roseman does a great job with that salary cap, at least in giving him some latitude to move around. Here's the point. Now, look, his draft is killing him, though. If Howie hit on half of the draft picks on a higher rate, he'd have the best balance of cap space and wins of any general manager in the league. Here, Washington has the most in the East at 83.5. The Giants are second at 26.8, and they're probably going to get more because Barkley's not coming back. And the Eagles are at 20.8 right now when it comes to salary cap. Okay? 18 of that is going to be allocated towards your draft. So you got $2.5 million probably for the upcoming draft. Now, renegotiating is going to go on, obviously. You're probably going to go into free agency with some type of space of $30 million. Okay? Something in there, or $25 million, which means you're not going to have a lot of movement. But the quarterback is not – the quarterback's not killing you like these other teams. Jalen Hurts' contract has no impact on this at all. I thought kind of it did. But, maybe just in a paycheck, when you see that large amount of money, the owner wants more results. And he should. You're paying a guy $50 million, he should give you $50 million with a return on investment. And that's kind of more of what I think it is. Am I getting my money's worth? And get this, Jeffrey Lurie's more on the line with his quarterback than any other guy out there, I think. He gave him that money. You think about it. Owners in Buffalo, there's a lot of strings attached here. You got $51 million in dead money right now, basically. You're in the red with $51 million. Jeffrey Lurie's got to look at Jalen Hurts and go, hey, son, you got to play now. My ass is on the line. I gave you the money. And guess what? I could cut your ass. You got like 3 years to get this thing right. And if you don't win a Super Bowl in 3 years, I'm moving off you, kid. I would personally say Jalen Hurts has 3 years to prove he's a starting quarterback for the future after that for a second deal. Or third deal, technically. Do you agree? He's got 3 years to prove he can win a Super Bowl. That's a lot of pressure on coaches, organizations. You can't get it wrong here. Because look at the amount of work you have to do. Okay? Hurts will get it done next year. Okay? Like I told Bill today, personally, if you're making Jalen Hurts a drop-back quarterback without the threat of what he had, in my opinion, and the majority of the success that he had in passing, and you could tell me since 2022, he's this or that in the pocket. Majority of those great numbers were built up in 22, not 23. Okay, that's for damn sure. Okay, that's not, he built that equity up with the 22 season. So when people combine seasons and say, hey, since 22, he's this in the pocket, he was the worst in the blitz. Well, his completion percentage, and he can't pick blitzes up or see blitzing, especially internal blitzing. Is that the old line? It's all of it. Throw the ball away, Jalen. Throw it in the stands. An incomplete pass sometimes is just as effective as a complete pass. I think that's really sometimes hard to get across, like people like Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Son, throw it in the stands. Live to play another play. Don't throw picks. Don't turn the ball over. Throw it in the stands. Throw it to Sirianni on the sidelines. Incomplete passes are okay. That's why you have special teams. Brady knew that because Brady's ego wasn't like these guys of today. Throw it in the stands. Throw it in the stands. Throw it in the stands. Check down, check down, check down, check down. Throw it in the stands. Check down, check down. 6 Super Bowls, 7 Super Bowls later, Tom Brady goes, hey, I won being the check down dude and throwing it out of bounds. Jalen has one defensive stop away from winning the Super Bowl in his second season as a starter. I have nothing but faith in him. Still got work to do. Yeah, played a great game. Jalen Hurts has not played a better game since the Super Bowl. In 2017, that one game superseded that game. Jalen Hurts hasn't played a game like that in a whole year. He's had some decent games, but he hasn't had a game like that because they got away from that. That's a question I have here. Why are the Eagles changing him? And I'm even more convinced now he'll never win a Super Bowl. One, I don't like the style of dual threat like that. And I don't think was drafted to be a pocket guy. And someone goes like this, well, he can develop into being, so we're going to have on-the-job training. I want a guy who's got arm talent to win me a Super Bowl. I want an arm talent guy. And what made Hurts unstoppable was the factor of the threat. As I told you, I feared Jalen Hurts more than any quarterback last year in the league outside of Mahomes because he had that aspect of dual threat. When that guy, I'm telling you, it was never, hey, some of the best passes I saw him make, like in the Chicago game in 22 when he got injured, and he threw that ball over the guy's shoulder right in the breadbasket. I was like this. That's a great pass. I didn't even think that was an incompleted pass. But he is getting better. He's still a couple of years away from being a prolific passer. That's for dang sure. Prolific, I don't know if he'll ever get to prolific. Could he get to really good? Okay. He's going to have high turnovers this year. The less you run the ball, the more turnovers he will have. That's a prediction. It's not a fact. You guys are all under the assumption he's going to have less. I don't know why you would think that because you don't know, and I don't, because we've seen 3 different Jalen Hurtses. It's not a fair assessment that he's going to get better. And it's not a fair assessment he's going to get worse. So what does that tell you? We're still in a wait and see on this guy. When I look at Mahomes or I look at guys like Burrow and I see the talent that they have and they're starting to do it consistently, let me show you something here about Jimmy. Let me show you something here about Brock Purdy. I know most of you in here think that that Jalen Hurts is better than Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy enters the Super Bowl 4-1 in the postseason, 2 NFC championship games, 1 title, and now he's in the Super Bowl. And only his, 25th start, 24th start? I mean, what are we going here? What are we talking about? Look at the talent he has. I know. As we mentioned yesterday, look at the talent Hurts has. You can't make that comparison any longer. Garoppolo is in a place now where, get this, and plus he's got a great play caller. You have to be determined. Let's do that. Okay? I'm just saying, he's 4-1. Brock Purdy's 4-1 in the playoffs. But because you don't like the guy because he was the last player taken in the draft, and you think your guy's better, well, I'll tell you what, in his first 2 years versus Hurts's first 2 years, I don't believe there's a comparison. I don't. Brock Purdy is further along than Hurts was, even after his MVP-type season. He's 4-1. He's 4-1. His resume can't be disputed. Tone goes, correction, Sills. We hate him because he's a Niner. You know, this Niner hatred is starting to, I said almost, rival the Cowboys. It will never, but it's kind of right there now. I always thought it used to be the Giants. Okay, but now it's the 49ers. Okay. Seals, you just like talking. Well, Des, what has Jalen Hurts done more than what Purdy's done the last 2 years? What's he done? Why are you changing Jalen? You're getting away from who he's. This is my problem that I have with the way you're going to coach this kid. I think you're going to destroy him. My personal takeaway is the hiring of Kellen Moore will be further example of the Eagles trying to change something, and you have buyer's remorse. I'm not doing anything to change that kid because in 2022, he was a weapon. In 2023, he was a turnover machine. And if you think he's going to become Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in the pocket, you're sadly mistaken. Yeah, Josh Allen needs to run to make himself effective. And they're not doing anything up there to stop him. Why are you changing him? Did you not like what you saw? How could you go from that to what you went to in 23? Make sense of it for me. Hey, how about this? Just make sense of it. Well, Jalen, I want you to throw the ball 140 more times or 120 more times, making harder throws with no backs that can block and a coordinator that has no experience. How did you go there from 22 to that? Because you thought Jalen would have this massive leap still because it was the intangible of the player? Well, the intangible of the player and the coach couldn't overcome the shitty results and the shitty circumstances on the team. The more I get away from 23 season, the more I believe he was hurt all year, but it wasn't being reported. You know, Tone, I don't believe that. Now, I think he was hurt early in the year, but I saw him running around at that Pro Bowl thing, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, hey, I'm not. Hey, anytime a player's injured, I'm not going to sit here and go, but I don't know. He was never on the IR, but just a few times. So I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and put conjecture on that the guy was banged up. I think it was a fundamental decision to throw the ball more and throw harder plays. Dude, there were so many examples. If you go back and watch his execution, that he made the harder throw and he was told where to throw the ball. Jalen Hurts is being told where to throw the ball. They're coaching him like a college coach would coach him, not a pro coach. I know you're not making excuses, Tone. I get it. No, I get it. He's going like, still, I'm trying to find what you're asking here. Why are they changing him? It just doesn't make sense. You have this very gifted player and Jalen Hurts. You have this super gifted player in this kid. And it's like this. It's such an ego boost for these guys to try to expand his game. Tone said that yesterday. They want to, Jalen should be expanding his game. Okay? Debo Samuel says 49ers-Eagles isn't a rivalry. I consider rivalries close games. Debo likes talking. Hey, you want to hear a stat about Debo? But Debo Samuel's not on the field for the Niners. They lose 30%. They lose 70% of their ball games. How's that for you? I mean, okay. I mean, let me put it out here to you here. For them to get away from 22, and when you're the hiring of Kellen Moore is not an RPO, dude, he's not really an RPO guy because he's never coached a guy like that. That's not an RPO guy. Justin Herbert wasn't really an RPO guy. Now he's not going to be coaching another RPO guy. They don't want him to be an RPO. And I heard something. Did I hear it with you guys, Tone, with you and Rob? You guys are saying that the offensive line, is it overrated? No. Taking the RPOs out of the offensive line hurt them too. Think about it. When you got a run-pass option, okay? I saw that throw. Thank you. When you got a run-pass option and you're a linebacker, you're froze. Are they going to run it? Are they going to pass it? You're froze. When you see a guy drop back, you're back in your coverage. You're not going to make a frozen step. Or you're not going to make a false step. Which means you're not going to be playing from behind. Which means what when you're in a pass rush situation? Dude, it's third and long. They're not running RPOs. Pin in our ears. Going. No back second block. Blitz a guy. Can't pick it up. Quarterback struggles seeing it. Makes everyone look like shit. No, we didn't say that. We asked if the O-line had a good year or down year when it came to blitz. I blame the running back. But I'm expanding on that, Tone. I'm saying that they didn't really have a bad year. They had a year where they were adjusting because of the lack of the approach when it came to not having the RPOs in the offensive game set, and it hurt them too. Remember something. Like I said, when you give the element of surprise away, what does the RPO do? You don't know what he's going to do. You took the element of surprise away from Jalen Hurts this year. Did it 22? How about this one? Didn't it in 22, everyone looked like they were playing a step slower than Jalen Hurts? And everyone at 23 looked like they were playing a step ahead of Jalen Hurts. Why do you think that is? I'll do a friendly wager for 100 super chat that Jalen finishes number 3 in voting next year. Dez. Okay. I'll take it. Jalen Hurts may have a decent year. Yeah, I think you're wagering. I'm not going to hold you to it. Here's why. Unless Jalen Hurts can play corner, you're not going to win a lot of games. And people that don't win a lot of games don't win MVPs. You're also assuming then that Jalen will be in the top 3 because why? You're 14-2 or 14-3? You think you got a 14-3 defense? Unless he can play corner or safety or linebacker, he ain't finishing no top 3. I don't give a shit what kind of numbers he puts up. If he puts up numbers and you're a 7-win team, he ain't going to finish in the top 20. So this is a team sport, dude. MVPs don't finish with under 500 records in the top 3. Okay? Name me one. I mean, losing records matter in that voting, and quarterbacks matter, and got it? Top 3? It's not happening because you don't have the defense to make that happen. If you were stout on that side of the ball, I'd be like, okay, that could be something that could happen, but you're not. I mean, you're getting killed by Drew Lock. Sills, to be honest, this defense is going to take 2 years to fix. Yeah, year and a half. At minimum, year and a half. Okay, year and a half. Okay. Let's see here. Last 4 games, 2-2 with no major points difference. Check it out. I don't know what that means. I want to see Jalen 2022. Teresa, me too. Dude, Teresa, excuse me. Let me say this to you, Teresa. You put Jalen Hurts 2022 and you keep fundamentally expanding his game off that 22 season, he could be better than Lamar Jackson. And you know what they're trying to do in Baltimore? They're expanding Lamar Jackson's game so that he could play, as Tone and I were talking yesterday, like a 10, 15-year career. Fantastic. But when he gets into the playoffs, he's not relying on the things that make him great. He's not a pocket passer. When Lamar Jackson has to throw the ball 47 times, he'll never win a playoff game. That's not who he is. Okay? I hope we get Van Keinkel, linebacker from Miami. He's great. Okay, Dirty D, we're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But think about this for a second. I'm going to use Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson in the same conversation. Watch this. When you ask a quarterback to throw the ball more, that skill set is dual threat. What are you going to get? Turnovers? Not a very good completion percentage? And you take the element of surprise away. That applied to the postseason for Lamar and Jalen's season. They're the same guy. Lamar Jackson had the same results in the postseason AFC title game as Jalen Hurts had all year. Did he not? 47 attempts. It was over. When I saw that number climbing up towards 35, I was like this. He's not winning. They're not winning. That's not who that guy is. You're getting away from being the guy that got him that MVP award during the season. It's like they're rushing him in passing. Did they not? They panicked. The problem with Hurts was they were trying to do this shit on the fly all year. And I think teams were confused. Where is 22? By the time 11 game came, they went like this. Okay. He's not running, and he's going to one guy. It was clockwork. Lions didn't have a great defense this year and finished 3 seed. Eagles can build that type of D this year. Hey, Des. Okay, you're talking about a quarterback that in the last 6 years has thrown for 4,000 yards and a running game that did all kinds of things that were great. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson and their linebacker play, their secondary needs some work. There's no question. But their linebackers and their D front, not bad. I mean, it's not bad. Dude, you're losing. Hey, the Lions lost to the Niners. You lost to Seattle and Zach Wilson and Tyrod Taylor. It's one thing to lose to the Niners in the NFC title game. Come on, man. You couldn't stop a cold. Sills, follow me here. You say all the time, unique Jalen Hurts is. Yes. Is it fair to say that finding unique OC for Hurts would prove more difficult? Exceptional question. Most of the prime candidates that were available dealt with more drop back guys, not any unique, except for Cliff Kingsbury. That's the guy I wanted. Okay? But once again, the Eagles got in the way of hiring the right guy, from what I'm being told. I'm being told by guys inside that building, Kingsbury wanted to bring in RPO coaches. Eagles didn't want to do it. Think about that. Eagles didn't want to do it. Kingsbury wanted the autonomy to bring his assistant coaches in because he had coached Mahomes and Kyler Murray. And he was the perfect coach for him because he had coached guys like that in college and in the pros. And they won 11 ball games. It's Arizona. Remember, you work for the Bidwells. It's like working for the Ursays or Tepper. It's a shitty organization. Don't hates his ass because the guy, hey, by the way, that view is awesome. I'm still there. Okay? Absolutely. Kingsbury was the guy, but guess it. Get this. Organization didn't want to give him control. Here's why Kingsbury didn't get the Vegas job. Here's why Kingsbury didn't get the Eagle job. It was this. He went in there and he said that I want to hire my guys and I want an extra year on my contract in Vegas. Raiders were hesitant to do both. Okay. Didn't work. So he goes to the Eagles. Have a great 2 interviews. Shit, man, everyone thought for sure that that deal was getting consummated. They may have even started drawing up the contract. Then when they started talking about position coaches, he's like, I want this type of coach. Then they started seeing the type of coaches he wanted to bring in that was conducive to the 22 Hurts. And you know what the Eagles did? They balked. That's why I'm making these statements today. Cliff Kingsbury was going to be hired, but the Eagles balked because they want him to look more like 23 and a better version of 23 than 22. Never win a Super Bowl. He didn't get paid. He wasn't your favorite player because of 23. He was your favorite player because of what he did in 22. I don't get it. They had the coordinator. But they didn't want to give the control. Once again, I'll say this as an opinion. You hired the wrong coach. 2 years in a row, and you think he's going to be a MVP candidate with a drop back OC. Might work. He might be unbelievable. I have to wait till September 6th in Brazil. Okay? Here's your organization getting in the way again. An organization. You want to bring in the right coordinator, but you don't want to give the coordinator the right toolbox. Because you want the control of the building. I mean, you guys are more optimistic than me. It's almost like these guys are power hungry and like control hungry and nothing to do with football. It's just got nothing to do with football. This is like, who has the bat and ball? And if you don't play my way, I'm going to take my bat and ball and no one plays. It's like really childish. It's not an organization that has the best interest of moving forward. It just doesn't make sense. What is the deal with the goofy front office? It's control, dude. Draft a dual threat quarterback and expect him to just be an arm. If you want an arm quarterback, draft one. Thank you. Dude, you drafted a dual threat quarterback. Now you want him to be an arm. He's not. He was benched in Alabama because of that. Hurts was a Southeastern Conference Player of the Year because he was a dual threat dude. That's totally the truth. Why are you doing this? You're messing this guy up almost as much as you messed up Wentz. Kingsbury was the guy. What does it tell me now that Cliff Kingsbury's being hired now as the offensive coordinator and Brian Johnson is now going to be working with the quarterbacks? What's that tell you? Washington's drafting a dual threat quarterback. Go and look at the draft, and what guy do you think, or are they making a trade for Justin Fields? It's either Justin Fields or a dual threat guy. Do you see that, right? Or no? Cliff Kingsbury's not going to coach a drop back guy. Jaden Daniels. What's the draft pick? Look at Jay laughing at Fields. Hey, Jay, who's coaching Justin Fields? And who's he throwing the ball to? DJ Moore and what? And Matt Eberflus is his coach? You're kidding, right? I don't know if Justin Fields sucks. He works hard. He's trying to get better. Name me a quarterback in the last 60 years that was an all-pro quarterback in Chicago. Rex Grossman? Who? Who does Chicago develop? It's a graveyard of quarterbacks. Fields had no chance of succeeding in Chicago. Maybe with Cliff Kingsbury. And by the way, Cliff Kingsbury's going to be running the entire offense, and Dan Quinn's going to be running the defense. That's why that hire is great. I think it's either him. I like the Jaden Daniels. What pick does the Washington Commanders have this coming April? What's their pick? Because I think that's important. What's their pick? Because if it's a top 10 pick, I don't think Jaden Daniels is a top 10 dude. Oof, man, 2 or 3 for Jaden Daniels. Man, they got $83 million and they got the second pick in the draft. Shit, they could get better fast. They could get better fast. Would you rather go into the draft? Is there any guy in the draft that you think is better than Justin Fields? I don't think Caleb Williams is better. I don't think he's better. Put Fields on Pittsburgh or Atlanta and see him soar. I think if you put him with Kingsbury, dude, you got to put the coaches in the right place with the player. So why didn't you hire Cliff Kingsbury? You had him. He wanted to hire the proper assistants for Hurts. They didn't want to do it. And I am saying this. This is what I've heard. They had Cliff Kingsbury in a contract, had him in a 3-year contract to become the offensive coordinator of Philadelphia Eagles. Had 2 meetings with him. One with over the internet, and they did a video interview, and then they had an in-face interview, and everything was going great until they started talking to assistant coaches. And all of a sudden, that's when it started balking. He says, well, you got to – and get this, you don't have to tell anybody what your approach with Hurts is. All you have to show – don't you guys get it? The assistant coaches show you the direction of how you're going to run your defense and your offense by who you hire. Greg Roman was hired for what? To help Justin Fields or to help Justin Herbert more in open space and maybe in some design run plays. The play caller's Jim Harbaugh. He's the play caller. He's going to be the every down 99% of the play calling. Greg Roman's going to be more of a guy that puts in design plays for him when it comes for him getting out in space. And just giving that other dynamic to kind of keep people honest. You see, that's not who Jalen is. Tone's right. You work on your deficiencies too. Yeah, but you work at what you do best always. Okay? Michael Jordan was a perimeter shooter. You think he was working on rebounding? Or like Michael Jordan Michael Jordan worked on defense. Do you know he's third all time in steals? He worked on defense and shooting. I mean, that's who he was. That's what he was defined by. You think Shaq worked on free throws? Shaq never worked on free throws. He dunked it, and he was great on the box. And a rebounding Shaq changed the game. Offensive 3-second rules because of O'Neal. I mean, Shaq and Wilt changed the way the space in the box is. That's much of an impact O'Neal had. Just not to go off the reservation that much, but the top of the key where you guys make free throws? Do you know why it's circled? Does anybody know why it's circled? You have any idea? Because back in the day, Wilt used to take a running leap and lay it in like this. And he couldn't shoot free throws. So Wilt would take a running start, leap, and drop it in the bucket. NBA said, I'm not going to do that. So they circled it, stopping guys from doing that. Wilt changed the free throw line. Wilt changed the box. That's called changing the game. When you got guys like that. All right, let's move on here. I've got 3 off-season targets here. I want to hear what you say on this. I'm finding out a lot of new things here because I've got some good folks that are inside the organization now. This front office and management make being an Eagles fan infuriating. Tired of jokes, games, crap, draft picks, disappointment. It's beyond BS. Q. And you had Kingsbury, and you wouldn't let him hire his people. That's all you need to know about this organization. Isn't that infuriating to you? Doesn't that frustrate you? And get this, I don't care the guy's a dick. I care he's good. Too much emotion runs in the hiring practices in your building. And control. I don't want him because he's a Cowboy. That's dumb. You weaken your opponent. You hire a good guy. Gives a shit. Nobody's loyal to anybody in this business. Man, sometimes when you guys talk like that, I'm like, really? You care that much about that shit? Totally not me. I could care less about that. Okay? I mean, wanted to hire his own assistants, and the Philadelphia Eagles said no. Nick Sirianni never hired any assistant coaches in his entire tenure as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's never hired a coach. Don't ever tell me that again, that he's hired a coach. He's never. And he's never fired a coach. He didn't have anything to do with the Desai demotion. He had nothing to do with it. He was told what to do. He's a complete puppet. I was on with Bill. Bill loves the guy. I don't think the guy, by the way, nothing personal. I don't know him from a can of paint. I could give a shit about him. Okay? Seriously, personally, I don't care. I'm just telling you, that's not a coach. And don't compare him to a guy who, get this, the difference between, if you guys want to compare Nick Sirianni to Mike Tomlin and to John Harbaugh, here's the stark difference between those two. Mike Tomlin has complete control of his coaching staff. And John Harbaugh does too. Nick doesn't. That's all you need to know. How can you be a CEO when you have no duties? You guys call Nick Sirianni a CEO when he has no duties. I mean, what kind of gig is that? You know, Nick Sirianni's more like a consultant head coach. All right. I'll do this. Will I do this now? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this at the top of the hour here because it's off-season targets that I want to talk about here. It's college and pro on how I think they have to get the football team better. But guys, one more time and one last time. And Tone, I hope we make a clip of this. The Philadelphia Eagles had Cliff Kingsbury signed almost to a contract to become the new offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. Kingsbury wanted to hire his assistant coaches, and the front office balked on it. Once again, you hired Kellen Moore to make him look like 2023, a better version, instead of the MVP year. My opinion, you're getting further away from what makes that kid great. I don't see it. I think you're getting further away from his skill set. And you're going to develop him into a passer. Good luck. Good luck. Wake me up when it happens. Well, Sills, last 2 years, 22, built a lot of that equity up. Not 23. And those massive turnovers. Being told where to go to the ball, with the ball. You're right. If he doesn't have A.J. Brown out there, he ain't finding anybody. You take his biggest bullet away from him in his gun to strike fear. Jalen Hurts is not striking fear in anybody with his arm. He's striking fear with his ability as a unique ball player. He's not unique anymore. Well, they're making him not unique anymore. Were you threatened with Hurts at all in the perimeter at all this year? Shit, every game at 22 that he played, this guy threw for over 300 yards in the Super Bowl and had almost 90 yards rushing. That 90 yards rushing is more valuable than the 300 yards passing because it creates open space and lanes because linebackers are frozen. Don't you understand one thing? When you watch the way the linebackers played in the NFC Championship game with the Niners, they were frozen in ice. This last regular season game, they ran to the football like their hair was on fire. Why? Because the threat wasn't there any longer. The threat wasn't there. They've taken the threat away. It's not that hard to say. By the way, your offensive line struggled. Oh, well, they're not going to run the ball. And they got away from running the ball. We're going to pin our ears back and blitz. Got to him. I had no answers. And you had a guy in Rashad Penny that was on the roster for no reason. I mean, dude, you should have fired Rashad Penny. Hired a guy who has no ability at running a ball but can blow. Dude, I would have rather you've done this. Fired Rashad Penny and signed another guard and lined a guard up back there as a running back. Or lined a tight end up to block for blitzes. Anybody that could pick it up. Dude, your backup tight end is useless. He's useless. But you're going to throw the ball more. Okay. We're going to do some off-season targets here in a second. By the way, my friend Tone will join us at 3:30. Jason Cole will join us. We'll talk Super Bowl Sunday, get his thoughts on some of the moves. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.